Hey everybody, welcome back to Fussy Cut Crafts. Oh, it's Friday. This is Adrian, and I'm, just glad to be at the end of another week. This is the second week in a row where it's actually felt like it's gone pretty fast, and I think it's because I've spent the past 2 weeks leaving the house after work almost every day. We can get we can get into that more later. What I decided to do last weekend was make some ephemera. Basically, I'm trying my hand here at making journal cards, and I had tried some of this the weekend before and filmed those videos, and they were so like fumbly, and I wasn't sure what I was doing or if I was doing it right or weird or whatever. And obviously there's not really a right or wrong way to do any of this stuff. But it just felt like it was, even though I enjoyed doing it, it felt like it would be boring to watch. And the results were fine, but it just kind of took me too long to get there. So it didn't seem like so it didn't seem worth it to post those post those videos and either force you to sit through something that was boring to watch or speed through them and then have you watch a sped up version of it. I don't know. But I made more ephemera last weekend. I tried my hand at this again, and I think it went a lot smoother this time. I I did a better job of getting stuff out, getting supplies out beforehand so that I had things ready to go. So I got all the cards that I was going to glue stuff onto. So I cut up some uh some of the scrape paintings I had done literally 2 years ago. Some of them I like enough to frame or maybe give as gifts or whatever. And some of them were just, kind of experiments and they only look okay. So I cut up some of the ones that only look okay because in pieces, the they look pretty good. So I cut some of those up. I had that ready to go. I cut up some packaging. So I had like a light cardstock with one side blank that people could easily write on, ready to go, so I could decorate the other side. I also cut up a ginormous book I got found at the thrift store at Savers. And by the way, I don't know what the deal is with Savers, but their prices need to be cheaper. Like it needs to be more of a real thrift store as opposed to this thing where just because a book has a hardcover, it automatically costs $6. What are you doing, Savers? We're going there because we want to save money, okay? Anyway, I found I found I think the book is 12 by 12 or 12 by 16 or something like that. It's a giant kids book filled with pictures and information about different kinds of birds. So I cut a lot of pictures out of that. I ripped up an atlas, an old atlas that I got, and I had some map pages ready to go. I got out some of my what do you call it? Scrapbook paper, the 12 by 12 scrapbook paper that I got from the Joann's closing sale, which is one of the things you see me using here, that really pretty paper. It was one of the more expensive ones. It wasn't the basic like cardstocky paper. And I got quite a few different patterns of that stuff. So since I actually had things ready to go around me, as opposed to just kind of fumbling through stuff as I was going, it made the process a lot easier. And I think probably more enjoyable to watch. Well, hopefully more enjoyable to watch as I just kind of pick stuff out, and go through it. So, what I have now is one of my scrape paintings that I cut up. I covered the back with some of that scrapbook paper, some of that fancy scrapbook paper. I used something I cut out of the kids' bird book and glued that down already. And now I ripped up one of the map pages and I'm attaching that to the front as well. And now all the cards I used, the cardstock, it wasn't all the same size. Some of it is just based on when I cut up packaging, you know how there's the long side where there's the picture of whatever the food is, and then there's the short side that'll just have a description or whatever. So I use the short side and the long side and cut things into different pieces, different sized pieces, just so there will be options for what to include when I really get going making journals. And I think this went really well. And I actually, at the end of this session, and the whole thing did take, I think I did it over 2 days. Like most of the just gathering supplies and cutting books up and things like that. Some of that was done the day before. I did a little bit more of it the day of. And then I started assembling things. So I guess all told, the process took probably 4-ish hours or so. And you're going to see a little over an hour of me making things, which hopefully will be enough for you to get some ideas for making your own journal cards or even just kind of collages in general. Because what I realized with that first ephemera making session when I was trying to make journal cards is that you can do it very easily with just putting a picture down on blank cardstock. But the way I'm doing it, it really is just collage, but not in, a scrapbook or a notebook or whatever. You're doing it on freeform, this freeform cardstock that you cut up. Once I was able to see it as that and think about it as that, and again, having a set of supplies kind of ready to go, so I didn't have to make too many decisions in the process of doing this. It really helped me just kind of start cutting and ripping things and seeing what works together and gluing things down. Now, one of the things that I am definitely still trying to figure out about this whole YouTubing thing, I do not know how to get my videos to download faster. Well, not technically download, but upload. I film on my phone and then I wait. Then I have to wait for everything to get uploaded into Google Photos so that I can then go to my laptop and edit stuff. It might be easier for me to start, well, that doesn't even really matter because just getting things into Google Photos takes forever. Even though one thing I did this time was film in, I think, like 7-10 minute ish videos because I thought that would make the process a lot easier. It did not. So even though I recorded all these tiny videos and I did look it up to see, I did a quick Google search to see, maybe am I doing something wrong? Is there any way to speed it up? And one of the suggestions was instead of filming in one big block, cutting the video up. So that's what I did. There's probably an easier way to do it than turning the camera on and off several times, but that's how I did it. So I have these 7, like 10-minute videos or whatever, and I thought it would make it a lot easier for things to load. Instead, what happened is that it may have taken even longer. It took like almost 2 full days for these videos, for all the videos to fully be in my Google Photos. I don't understand what's going on. I think I have a pretty good internet connection, and I had gone through the day before and deleted a lot of stuff that I didn't need in there anymore, and just cleaned up my Google storage in general, not just Google Photos, but all of my Google storage, since it's all one big pot that the storage comes out of between Google Photos, Google Drive, and Gmail. And if you have more than one Gmail account, I'm pretty sure it's all in the same Google Drive, as long as you're the owner of various Gmail accounts. So I went in and cleared a bunch of stuff out, a bunch of stuff. And I thought that would help. It did not help. So I don't know what's going on. But I have to say, this is one of those times where, at least in Googling to try to find out information about how to make this better, at least I can see that it's not just me. Because through the years, people have had problems with this, with videos taking forever to load into Google Photos. So at least I know it's not just me. It's not just me being like older and weird and maybe not as good with technology as a younger person or whatever. So at least there's that, I guess. So how's everybody doing? I am trying really hard not to complain. For the most part, everything's going great. But I've been having some health stuff that's really bugging me. And I'll be going to the doctor on the 26th. I think it's the 26th. And I actually just went ahead and went through and wrote down all the stuff that's bugging me and all the stuff I want to have checked out. So at least I have a plan going forward. And I really like my doctor. She's very good about not dismissing my concerns. And if I think something might be wrong, even though if she doesn't see evidence of it, she'll still go ahead and have me do tests for it or whatever. So I'm happy about that. I'm glad that that's a thing is that I don't have to worry about, because I spent a year, almost a full year, taking my mom to all of her doctor's appointments, literally all of them. And there were a lot of them. And the combination, just the, I saw even more how you really have to be committed to advocating for yourself, because and telling the truth. There are a lot of people who go to the doctor and I guess they're embarrassed, or they don't want to feel like they're being scolded by the doctor or something like that, and they don't tell the full truth. If you go to the doctor and you tell them the truth and you tell them your concerns and they're not listening to you, the absolute truth is that you need to find another doctor, because that's what they're there for. We're not the professionals. All we can do is Google around and see what might be wrong. They're the ones who have to who are supposed to have the skills to determine whether or not something might be wrong and run the correct tests and all that kind of stuff. So you really have to fight for yourself. Probably, I'm going to say, a lot more than you should have to. And that's probably got a lot to do with just our healthcare system and how insurance works and how just the whole thing is set up. And the fact that each doctor probably has dozens upon dozens of patients that they can't always give the same amount of time to. So if you're not pushing them, they might miss stuff. So I went down, like I said, I went through and I wrote down everything that's bugging me physically. The big thing is that I've had problems with my legs and mobility before. My left leg has been killing me. And I have ramped up my physical therapy exercises. I'm walking more and nothing is helping, which is the problem I was having last time a few years ago, with the exception of the physical therapy exercises, because I hadn't had physical therapy yet. The reason I got physical therapy is because I told my doctor I was having problems with my legs, and let's see, I had an MRI and X-rays, and there was nothing wrong, but I was still having the problems. So I asked her for physical therapy, and she said okay, and she referred me to a physical therapist. So I'm doing those exercises and it's not helping. My leg hurts basically all the time, whether I'm sitting, standing, doing the exercises, not doing the exercises, laying down. It tends to feel a bit better when I'm walking, but who can walk all day every day? Unless you have a job where you walk all the time, you have to sit or stand still at some point. So I need to figure out what's going on with my leg. That's my biggest concern right now. I also think I have psoriasis, which I've been managing on my own without medication. I just want to know if I actually have it or if it's something else that's going on. I'm fine with not taking medicine with it as long as it doesn't get any worse than it currently is. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on. But like I said, basically everything's going okay. I can sit long enough to get my work done. I can sit long enough to do my art stuff. I can sit long enough to enjoy a TV show. And if my leg starts hurting, I can get up and walk around and still watch TV. So I'm trying not to worry too much. That has definitely been a problem of mine in the past. And I'm also trying not to let my, just let my concerns spoil the positive things that are happening. It's all a process. What can I say? We all have our things to deal with. Luckily, in my little corner of the world, nothing is going too badly right now. Everything's actually going pretty good. I actually need to do some grocery shopping because I'm out of one of the things I'm trying to stay away from is genetically modified foods because I don't think my body handles them well. And I had earlier in the year been eating a lot of Chex and a lot of Cheerios because they're gluten free. Gluten is another thing I need to stay away from because my body doesn't handle it well. But I realized a couple months ago that all the Chex and Cheerios that are gluten free also filled with something that's been genetically modified. So I've had to cut way back on that stuff. And guys, they do not make it easy at all for us to eat healthily if we want to eat anything that's been prepackaged. The the cereals I've found that are gluten free and also non-GMO, non-genetically modified, like one relatively small box costs like $6 or $7. And that's for the cheapest brand at Walmart. So I'm doing what I can, with the exception Thank God for this. Fruity Pebbles, non-GMO and gluten-free. So if you're worried about those two things and you like Fruity Pebbles enough and you want some cereal, get yourself some Fruity Pebbles. It's a lifesaver. One of the things I used for this journaling card is some paper from a Flow Paper Lovers book, along with scrapbook paper and the Bird book as well. Okay, now you see here me using one of the side panels from a box I cut up. And I haven't decided yet, instead because these are so narrow, I might actually just laminate these because I did get a laminating machine because it was on sale on Amazon, as were the laminating pockets. So I've got that equipment now. But because these are so narrow, I might go ahead and laminate them and use them more as bookmarks. We'll see. I haven't completely decided on that yet. But I just took some scrap paper from the Bird book, which I think everything in that book is to scale. So there's a ruler printed all around the edges of each page. So you can get a good idea of how large a bird actually is. So I just took some scraps from it. So that's why you see the little bit of the ruler there on each side, and attached it to this piece of packaging along with scraps from the previous journaling card I made. See, like I said, once I got into this and realized I was just collaging on a different surface, it was pretty easy to put stuff together. And there's another skinny one. By the way, if you've never had the Simple Mills Himalayan salt crackers, pita crackers, so good. They work with like just your standard dips and salsa kind of things, but they also work with sweeter things. Luckily, this strip that I took out of the Bird book basically fit right on this piece of package, and all I had to do was add a little bit of something extra down at the bottom, and it was covered. So this is something that I hadn't really thought about before, making journaling cards. But if you make a journal that has either a lot of weird pages in it, or there are a lot of pages that are magazines, or they're, come out of magazines or other books, or they're collage pages, it wouldn't be as easy necessarily for people to, if they want to use it as an actual journal where they're writing things down, it wouldn't be as easy for them to use it as that, because a lot of the pages are already covered with stuff. So it does make sense to give them something that they can use that has at least one blank or mostly blank side so that they can actually write on it. This is the value of me watching what by now must be 100 journaling videos and junk journal videos and videos where people make books and things like that, because it's something I wouldn't have really thought of before. Yeah, that's another one I might because it's one of the skinnier ones, I might turn into a bookmark. And this is me just trying to peel off what was left of the glue from the packaging, which I got, so it'll be easier to glue new stuff down on. So what else have I been up to? Oh, here we go. I completely forgot to tell you guys whenever I made in whatever video I made and put up like 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I made paper. I don't think I mentioned that. Now, I haven't shown any of the process. Well, I didn't film it for one thing, and I haven't shown the paper, how the paper turned out, um, because clearly I still need to play with it to kind of perfect the process, because everything turned out to have the same consistency as the paper I used, as the junk paper I used to make the new paper. So I used light cardboard packaging from boxes of cat food, a really thin white cardboard, kind of like the cardstock I'm using for these journaling cards and bookmarks. So not something really thick, not corrugated cardboard, something pretty thin. And I did all the steps. I broke it up. I ripped it up into small pieces. I soaked it for quite a while in water. I got a blender, one of those immersion blenders, just for blending it up and making paper pulp. I did that, and I got the kit so that I could, so that I had the little, I'm forgetting what you call it now, but it's basically like a strainer and a mold, so you can shape the paper into, pretty perfect rectangles. And I did all the drying and the blotting and all that kind of stuff. But it turned out to be, like I said, the same kind of consistency, and I wanted something that was more like regular paper. So I think the key will be to use a lighter paper as opposed to a thin cardstock. But I still had some of that original, they call it a slurry, I guess, I think, with the original packaging in it. But what I've done over the past couple of weeks is add regular paper to it, like magazine pages and pages from catalogs and things like that, which are a lot thinner. So I'm hoping blending that stuff together will give me pages that are more like standard paper. But I haven't like dipped back into that yet, because it really it takes up a lot of space. Like, I've still got this bucket of paper glue in my kitchen, sitting on my kitchen floor. And I'm gonna have to get out a big thing of paper towels and like non-absorbent packaging to put everything down so I can press it out. I'm also going to try rolling it. They said you could roll it with a rolling pin as opposed to just patting it out with a sponge. So I'm going to try that this time to see if it forms better and comes out thinner. But there's like a whole production thing that I have to set up, and I haven't felt like doing it yet. So I'm probably going to try that again this weekend at some point, because this bucket of paper glue has been sitting in my kitchen for too long now. And I at least need to get this batch completely made into some sort of paper so that I can then see if it works. All right. So what I'm doing here is what you saw there was some of my one of my scrape paintings that I cut up, and now I'm using some paper from that. I think it's the Flow book for paper lovers, the one that focuses on nature, which probably came out like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Did I remember to turn this over? Oh no, right. Right, when I used the scrape paintings, I kept the painting side on the back, and I covered the blank side so that both sides show. And you could still technically, if I did use this as a journal card as opposed to a bookmark, you could easily write on this side right here because the picture is light enough. And depending on what kind of pen you're using, you could write on the painted side if you want to. One thing I had thought of doing that I've seen a lot of other people do is adding sewing to these things. I haven't done that yet, even though I have sewn some ephemera. I made some tissue paper collage pages and sewed some of those into paper ruffles, which turned out really pretty. And I think you can actually see them in off to the side in one of the previous videos I did. But that was fun to do and turned out really well. I, of course, because I haven't used my sewing machine that much, of course, I got a thread jam underneath the foot, I think they call it, which is the plate that's right underneath the needle. So this basically, when I did that bit of sewing, it was the second time that I've had to take my sewing machine apart, which is very stressful, and put it back together so that I could clear that thread jam. But I did it. I learned a thing. I did it. I got it cleared. I got it working again. Everything's a-okay. So I'm proud of myself for that. Despite the fact that if I had been paying enough attention, I would have been able to get ahead of that thread jam, I think, because it did shake a few times or rattle a few times or something, which going back through the instruction book, it's a sign that that you have a jam underneath the either where the bobbin is or underneath the needle. And I kept going and didn't pay any attention to it. And it got pretty fucked up, guys. But I took care of it. I took care of it like a responsible adult and got it working again. So I think one thing I am going to try, and I don't know if I want to use it, even though this is a light cardstock, I might want to do it with just paper because I don't want to take any chances and like mess up my needle or the sewing machine or any of that stuff. So I think it's something I'll try when I'm just making ephemera out of paper as opposed to using any cardstock. And I'll give it a try to, sewing random patterns either through it or around the edge. One of the cool things about the sewing machine I got is that it's got a lot of preset, I don't even know what you call it, thread patterns, like design patterns. So it's not just, you don't have to have just a basic, boring straight line when you're sewing. It will sew in all these cool zigzags and things. So I can use a lot of those patterns to make decorative stitching on or around the edges of not just ephemera, but journal pages and envelopes and all kinds of things when I get started. This is more paper from the flow book for paper lovers, except this one was focused on food. And this is the first time I've used that book. And a couple of weeks ago was the first time I'd used the flow book for nature lovers. Those things are really expensive, and it is very tempting to hoard them and keep them and not actually use the stuff in them. But pulling pages out and just going ahead and ripping through them and ripping stuff up like I did here into weird shapes and gluing them down and covering some of them up a little bit and everything, I think that's helped me get over and it wasn't fear, I just wasn't using it. And I spent a lot of money on it, so there's this temptation to not use the stuff you have, but just biting the bullet and doing it, ripping into it, has helped me get over that to a great extent, I think. I think one of the problems is probably that we have these things that, these paper items, photographs, illustrations, whether it's something we pulled out of a book or a magazine or something we worked on ourselves, that we very quickly become attached to, and we're afraid to use it and then think, oh, that thing I used that I don't have it anymore would have been so great for this other thing that I'm now working on, but I used it on that other thing, so I don't have it anymore. We're afraid of that happening. And we're also afraid of using it in a way that doesn't turn out the way we want it to look, the way we thought it would look, as good as we were hoping it would look, or we don't want to feel like we wasted any of this stuff. And if there's anything that's true right now, as much as things have gone digital, there's still a lot of paper in the world, a ton of paper. Even though there aren't as many print magazines as there used to be, there aren't as many newspapers as there used to be, there's still a ton of paper. Right now, none of us has to worry about running out of new paper to glue to other paper. So I think if you just dive into whatever your stash is and start cutting stuff up, start ripping stuff up, start sticking things together, it helps you get over the fear of not using an image you love correctly or for the right project, or having something you want to try not turning out correctly. Not everything is part of the whole point of this is not everything is going to turn out to be some masterpiece. And you could easily look at it and think it didn't turn out well, but somebody else could look at it and think it's great and amazing and one of the best things and most creative things they've ever seen. That's the whole point of creativity and how it's in beauty. Nobody sees things exactly the same as another person. So just, dive in and do it. Get yourself something to drink, get yourself a snack, put on your favorite show or your favorite podcast or whatever it is, and just start doing it. Whatever the thing is, whether it's collage or glue booking or painting or making paper or making journals, journaling, junk journaling, any of it, just get in there and start doing it, and you will eventually get into a groove where the act of doing the thing is more important than the result. All right, we're nearing the end here, guys. We're nearing the end of this particular session. This is another instance where I took this actually isn't a scrape painting. One thing I did, I don't think it was in the same exact, it wasn't in the same, any of the same sessions as I did my scrape paintings, but I really like the look of paint dripping, but I didn't want to use a bunch of paint on it. I wanted to try to, in keeping with the spirit of using up things that would normally go in the trash, and you can see the other, I just flipped it over, you can see the other side there, a little bit of drips going on. What I used and dripped down this piece of, I think it was mixed media paper, was old nail polish. And I actually made quite a few of these nail polish drip paintings, I guess you could call them. And I really like the results of a lot of them. The first and most important thing I will tell you is do not, under any circumstances, do this indoors. Even if you have all your windows open and fans on. I made the mistake of thinking because I polish my, fingernails and or toenails on occasion that I could handle just fine the fumes from nail polish. The problem is that not only did this doing these drip paintings take a lot longer than it does to just polish your fingernails. I think because even though I closed each bottle up in between using it, because you don't want it to get, I mean, the polish is already old, you don't want it to get any goopier or whatever while you're doing it. Um, but even though I closed all the bottles up when I wasn't using them, it was still way too much. And I ended up, even though again I had fans going, I had my windows open, but the fumes were just too strong with, I think, how many bottles did I use all told? I probably had like 6 or 7 bottles of old fingernail polish that had started to, separate and all that kind of stuff that I used for these things, and it was way too much. Uh, luckily, I realized it was way too much before the fumes really got to me. But what happened is I was doing it and everything was going fine for a while. And I think I probably did this for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And towards the end of the session, I started getting a headache. And then I kind of started getting dizzy. And I'm glad I had just enough knowledge and recognition to go, oh my God, it's the fingernail polish. I'm not just tired or hungry or whatever. I'm kind of like slowly gassing myself, poisoning myself here. I need to stop. So I did. And I actually haven't done any of these since then. I did those 2 years ago as well, like in the summer 2 years ago. Um, and the reason I haven't done it is because I haven't felt like going and sitting outside to do it, because that is the only way I will ever do it again. Now I wouldn't be surprised now if there are some fingernail polishes that don't have the strong smell, but I still wouldn't, unless you're going to try it with quickly within like 10 minutes with one bottle of fingernail polish. You'll probably be okay doing it inside then. But otherwise, if you get a whole bunch of them together and you're going to be doing this for a while, don't do it unless you can go sit outside, because you just don't want to take any chances. So I cut up one of those fingernail polish paintings. That's on the back of this. I used part of a map page, and this is a some fussy cuts from the Giant Bird book. There were a lot of butterflies in that book, which I wasn't expecting, but I cut a lot of those out as well. And that's it for that one. It really doesn't take much to get some interesting looks from these things. Again, just think about it like you're doing some glue booking and put together things that you think look interesting, and you'll have something cool. Even if you only put a background image down and one fussy cut on top of it, or one smaller square image on top of it, you'll still have something cool looking. And of course, some of that is just dependent on how you cut or tear things and layer things together and everything. And you saw me there just a few seconds ago take a bit of a shortcut. Instead of using a ruler, which I told myself I was going to get a ruler so that I had it at my art table. I still haven't done that. And I didn't want to take the chance that holding the map page up to the card I was going to stick it to, that things were going to slip around. So I just held it down and used my fingernail to run along the crease so I could figure out where I wanted to cut it, which was a pretty handy little shortcut actually. So let's see. I need to do some grocery shopping this weekend. I'm trying to figure out if I will do other things. I am way, way off when it comes to my no buy. Um, I think this month I've only gone, and not in a row completely, but let's see, today is the 15th as I record this. I think maybe I've gone 4 or 5 days not buying stuff I really don't need to buy. I felt like leaving the house earlier this week, and I just went ahead and told myself, okay, I'm going to go to half price books. I'm going to go to half price books. So I did. I went to half price books, and for the first time in quite a long time, well, first of all, I hadn't been there in a long time because I know how I get when I go in there. I tend to spend like $50 to $100 when I go in half price books because there's always a lot of cool stuff. This time, I did much better. I literally spent $18 and change, and that's it. I got 2 books. Is that it? Did I get a magazine? I don't think I did. They didn't have good magazines this time. Yeah, they didn't have good magazines this time. I got a book with some really cool botanical illustrations that I'm gonna cut up. I got a cool, like, art book with a lot of really nice, interesting, wild illustrations in it that I'm probably gonna use. Well, I can just cut it up and rip it up, but my thought was that I could use my, um oh god, why am I forgetting it? My punch. I have, circle punches and shape punches and all that kind of stuff. So I was thinking I could punch out like cool already arty circles and things and other shapes from the art pages in this book And I feel like I got one other book, but I can't remember what it is, and I'm not going to get up and go look. And again, I really am trying to use stuff up, guys. One of the good things about this ephemera making session is that I'm starting to use things up. What I need to do is go through some of my scraps, because I have a lot of scraps, and start using those to also make some of this stuff, and just to decorate journal pages, and um, put in my glue book and use for collage. And I've done those things here and there, but I need to have like several dedicated sessions so that I can start really clearing some of this stuff out. Because I have, let's see, I've got 3 cigar boxes full of stuff. Some are fussy cuts, some are scraps, some are words. I've got a giant binder full of stuff. I've got 2 big folders full of stuff. I have, oh, yep, there's a bunch of stuff sitting in my rocking chair that I have covered up with pillows so that I don't have to so that I don't have to look at it all the time. And of course, I have a ton of magazines and books that I need to pull images out of. Magazines, especially the magazines, are a real problem around here. I wouldn't be surprised if I have like 200 magazines in my house that I haven't pulled any images out of at all. So that's a thing I need to take care of. I need to get busy, is what I'm saying. I need to get busy. And all we can really do, especially if you have a job, and you probably do, even if you, like me, work from home or you work in the home, you have a lot of responsibilities. So even taking like a 20-minute session to use up your scraps, it might seem like it's not worth it, but it's good for your mental health, and it's good for getting the things in your house that you've saved used finally. And that's the point of all this, right? Okay. This is the last thing I made in this session. That's the back panel of a macaroni and cheese box that I cut up because I like the white cardstock. Seemed like it would be good for, another journaling card. And this is definitely the one. I hope I remember to turn it over, because if I glued all my stuff down on the white side, oh, there we go. Yay, I did it. The whole point is to have one blank or basically blank side and one decorated side. So I'm glad I remembered to flip that over. Let's see. I don't even remember what I went for here. Okay. Looking at the another map page so far. By the way, again, if you need gluten-free but also need dairy-free Dia macaroni and cheese, oh, it is so good. It tastes exactly like regular macaroni cheese. You can't tell it's not real cheese. You can't tell that there's no gluten. It's perfect. Comes in several flavors. I think I've tried all of them now, and all of them are really good. And they combine well too, which is nice. Oh, it's perfect. I might make some macaroni and cheese later. I've been eating a lot of macaroni and cheese lately because it's easy, and you can add stuff to it, like you can put vegetables in it. I've been using this salsa from Siete. It's got sun-dried tomatoes and olive oil, and it's kind of a smoky, spicy salsa. God, it's so good. It's good on everything. I've tried it. I've added it to macaroni and cheese. I've added it to rice. I've added it to what else? And of course, you can just use it as salsa and have it on burritos or tacos, or use it as dip for chips. and it just makes everything perfect. I might go ahead and link you to all this food stuff I'm talking about because it is difficult when you have dietary restrictions to find stuff that tastes as good as the stuff we've been eating basically for our whole lives, like the Kraft macaroni and cheese or the Kraft Deluxe macaroni and cheese, all the cereals, all the standard cereals we eat, um, the salsas and the cookies and all the other kind of prepackaged stuff that we eat. If you look to cut down on the sugar or the gluten or the dairy or the genetically modified stuff or the sodium in a lot of those products, it is hard to find stuff that tastes good and satisfies the craving you have, but doesn't completely blow through whatever dietary restrictions you have. And most of us simply do not have enough time or money to make everything we want to eat from scratch. I mean, you can make dairy-free cheese sauce, and I've looked into that, but a lot of it seems like a pain in the ass. And sometimes you need to just put food in your face and you want it to taste good. So I will. I'll go ahead and help you guys out if you're interested in any of this stuff. Even though it doesn't have anything specifically to do with paper crafting or painting or journaling or any of that stuff. We need to help each other as much as possible. And I'm willing to share the positive results of the food experiments I've been having over the past couple of years to cut down on some of the things that make my body do weird stuff when I eat. So I'm going to share with you guys. Okay, so I really do like maps. I don't think I realized it before, but you get you get interesting colors and textures just from one map page. So I've got more, a little bit of a map here. I cut out a picture of some kind of bird. I don't remember what kind it is from the giant bird book. And I think I put something else on there. I don't quite remember what. I'm really glad I did get this cutting mat, which I don't think you actually even saw me cut on this mat, but when I was cutting things out of the bird book, I did put it under some pages so I could cut around and not rip a whole page out. Because the more pages you rip out, the more random stuff you have just sitting around in random spots. And I was trying to cut down on that. So I would just take the edge of my scissors, put that cutting mat in between pages, and kind of use the edge of my scissors like an X-Acto knife to just cut around an image I want sometimes, just to make it easier and to lead to me having less scraps all over the place that I then need to put somewhere. Which I did though. I actually last weekend I went to the dollar store and I picked up a bunch of these magnets with clips on the front, so you can put them on your refrigerator or whatever and put notes up, just clip pictures to them or whatever. I actually used those to corral all of these scraps and all of the box tops I had, the boxes and cardstock and stuff I had left over, and put them up on my dry erase board in my office, which is actually also magnetic. And I had actually kind of forgotten that it was magnetic because the first time I put stuff up there, my cats jumped up and kept pulling everything down. Luckily, my setup is a little bit different now, so they don't really think about it. So I'm hoping so far they've stayed away from it and they haven't knocked anything off. So I'm hoping that continues and I can keep using it as a place to quickly store some of my scraps from projects so that I can get back to them easily without doing what I usually do, which is sticking them inside of a book or something and sitting the book down and then forgetting what I was working on and forgetting to go back to it. And then I go to the book or the magazine to do a harvest. And then I go, oh, right, I was going to do XYZ. So I'm hoping this will cut down on that. I might actually go back to the dollar store and get more of those clips, those magnetic clips, because they're very handy. Cutting out another butterfly from the Big Bird book. I used a scrap of some of the that was some more of the fancy scrapbook paper that I got from Joann's, a little scrap up there at the top. I think that might have been it for this one. Once I get this glued down. I need to decide if I'm going to leave the house after I finish this video. It looks like it might rain. It's also pretty hot outside, so I don't know. I have to see what I'm in the mood for. All right, I think that's it for this one. That's basically the end of our session. Now I'm going to go through everything and see what I made so we can look at all of it together. Okay, now we have a quick flip through. The first card there, I actually made off camera. That's one of the things I did with my first session. So it's the second one. I think we started with, did we start with the third one? Or was that in the previous session too? The third one was in the previous session too, and then we move into the session you saw in this video. And you can take a look at the full thing, the full view of what I've made so far, which has turned out pretty well. And like I said, I'm glad I did it. I got to use up a lot of scraps, got to use up a lot of things that had just been sitting that I hadn't used before. Also forgot that I had set had put background images on a lot of stuff. Well, four things it looks like. I put background images on three or four things and forgot to go through and put new stuff on it fussy cuts and add other images to it. Part of the problem was that is that it was late. It was late by the time I got done with all this stuff and I was ready to not glue anymore. So thanks for joining me. Have a good weekend. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye.